Imagine that you are walking down a path in the forest, feeling lost and alone. You can hear the voices in your head telling you that you're not good enough, that you'll never find your way, that you're destined to fail. These voices are your own worst enemy. They're holding you back and preventing you from reaching your full potential. But what if you could change the way you talk to yourself? What if you could transform those negative, self-defeating thoughts into positive, empowering ones? Here are 5 strategies that can help you do just that. Acknowledge your negative self-talk. The first step in changing the way you talk to yourself is to become aware of the negative voices in your head. Take note of the times when you're being overly critical, when you're telling yourself you can't do something, or when you're catastrophizing a situation. By acknowledging your negative self-talk, you can begin to challenge it. Challenge your negative self-talk. Once you've identified your negative self-talk, it's time to challenge it. Ask yourself if your thoughts are really true, or if they're just assumptions or beliefs that you've picked up along the way. Look for evidence that contradicts your negative thoughts, and focus on the positive aspects of a situation rather than the negative. Reframe your thoughts. Instead of thinking in black and white terms, e.g., "I'm a complete failure," try to reframe your thoughts in a more positive light. For example, you could tell yourself, "I didn't do as well as I hoped, but I'll learn from my mistakes and do better next time." This helps you focus on the solution rather than the problem. Practice self-compassion. It's important to be kind and compassionate to yourself, especially when you're going through a tough time. Instead of beating yourself up for making mistakes or experiencing setbacks, remind yourself that it's okay to be human and that everyone makes mistakes. Treat yourself with the same kindness and compassion that you would show to a friend. Surround yourself with positivity. Surround yourself with people and things that bring positivity into your life. Spend time with friends who uplift and encourage you, engage in activities that make you feel good, and read or listen to positive affirmations or self-help books. By implementing these strategies, you can start to transform your negative self-talk into positive, empowering self-talk. Remember, the voices in your head are powerful, but so are you. With practice and perseverance, you can become your own best friend instead of your own worst enemy. Chapter 1. Jack worked a dead-end job at a local grocery store. Jack had big dreams of becoming a successful entrepreneur, but he always found excuses for why he couldn't pursue his dreams. He would tell himself that he was too busy with work, too tired to take on anything else, and that he just wasn't ready yet. One day, Jack's friend, Lisa, came over for a visit. Lisa was a successful business owner and had achieved everything she set her mind to. As they talked, Jack shared his frustrations about his job and his unfulfilled dreams. Lisa listened attentively and then said, "Jack, you live the life you choose for yourself. If you're not happy with your job or your life, then it's up to you to change it." Jack was taken aback. He had never thought about it that way before. Lisa continued, "You have to be honest with yourself. Are you really willing to make the necessary changes to create the life you want? Or are you just comfortable living with the status quo?" As Jack pondered her words, he realized that he had been living with excuses and justifying his inaction for far too long. He wasn't truly willing to do the work required to make his dreams a reality. But Lisa encouraged him to start by getting real and acknowledging the power he had over his own life. She told him to focus on the things he was no longer willing to put up with and use that as motivation to make the necessary changes. Jack took her advice to heart and started saying to himself, "I am willing." He began to make small changes in his life, such as setting aside time each day to work on his business idea and taking a course on entrepreneurship. As he gained momentum, he found that he was more willing to take bigger risks, like quitting his job and devoting all his time to his business. It wasn't an easy journey, and there were setbacks along the way, but Jack kept telling himself, "I am willing." And eventually, his hard work paid off. He built a successful business and was living the life he had always dreamed of. The moral of Jack's story is that we all have the power to create the life we want, but it starts with being honest with ourselves and acknowledging our own willingness to do the work required. We must focus on the things we're no longer willing to put up with and use that as motivation to make the necessary changes. The state of willingness sets the stage for change to happen, and it's up to us to take the necessary steps to make our dreams a reality. Chapter 2. George had been through some tough breakups and had lost faith in his ability to find true love. He had come to believe that he was destined to be alone, and that belief had become a self-fulfilling prophecy. George was stuck in a cycle of negative thoughts and behaviors that were holding him back from finding happiness. One day, George realized that he was playing the wrong game. He had been trying to win at the game of finding love, but what he really needed to do was change the game. Instead of trying to prove to himself that he was unlovable, he needed to prove himself wrong. George started by identifying the negative beliefs that were holding him back. He realized that he had been proving to himself that he was unlovable by getting into relationships that were bound to fail. He needed to change his approach. George decided to start playing the game of self-improvement. He began by getting organized and taking charge of his time. He made a game plan for how he would overcome his tendency to procrastinate, and he visualized in detail how he would become more productive and focused. Whenever George felt the urge to procrastinate, he would remind himself that he was wired to win. He would fill his mind with positive, proactive thoughts about how he was going to overcome his negative beliefs. He imagined a future version of himself who had overcome his tendency to procrastinate, and he focused on how good it would feel to accomplish his goals. With time, George found that he had become a different person. He was more confident and self-assured, and he had a better sense of what he really wanted in life. He realized that he had been playing the wrong game all along, and that by changing the game, he had become a true winner. The moral of the story is that if you want to win, you need to change the game. Instead of trying to prove your negative beliefs right, you need to prove them wrong. You need to focus on self-improvement and fill your mind with positive, proactive thoughts. Remember that you are wired to win, and with the right mindset, you can achieve anything you set your mind to. Chapter 3. One person believed that having a positive mindset was the key to a happy life. They thought that no matter what happened, as long as they had a good attitude, everything would work out. But then, life threw some heavy stuff their way. Their relationship broke down, a loved one passed away, and they experienced some serious health problems. They found themselves struggling to cope, and their positive attitude didn't seem to be enough. That's when they realized that having a positive mindset alone isn't enough to get through life's tough times. It's important to have perspective, to look back on all the challenges you've already overcome and remember that you are capable of handling more. So they came up with an exercise to help them gain perspective. They imagined themselves standing on a railroad track, with their past stretching out behind them and their future lying ahead. As they traveled back down the tracks, they remembered both the good and bad times they had experienced. They realized that they had already overcome so much and that they were capable of handling even more. They reminded themselves that even though life can be tough, there is still so much potential for new experiences and joys. So the next time life threw something their way, they didn't let it knock them off course. Instead, they reminded themselves that they had already overcome so much and that they could handle this too. And with that, they faced their challenges head-on, with a positive mindset and the perspective that comes from knowing they had already overcome so much. Chapter 4. In a world not so different from ours, there was a person named Alex. Alex loved to plan everything in their life down to the smallest detail. They would check the weather forecast every day, read up on the stock market trends, and plan out their entire day the night before. Alex loved the feeling of knowing what was going to happen next, but they soon realized that this craving for certainty was holding them back. Alex wanted to do new things, to try new experiences, and meet new people, but their fear of uncertainty was stopping them. Alex was worried about what others might think of them and was scared of the possibility of failure. They realized that this fear of uncertainty was keeping them from living a full and exciting life. One day, Alex had an epiphany. They realized that nothing new ever happens without a degree of uncertainty. If they wanted to make new friends or take a risk at work to reach new professional heights, they would have to embrace uncertainty. Alex knew that their fear of uncertainty had been holding them back, and they decided to make a change. Alex started small. They began to try new things, like trying a new restaurant or going to a social event alone. At work, they started to pitch new ideas, even if they weren't sure if they would be well received. Alex found that by embracing uncertainty, they were able to experience new opportunities and grow as a person. But there were still times when Alex found themselves craving the feeling of certainty. They realized that this craving was based on an illusion. Certainty doesn't exist. The universe is chaotic, and anything can happen at any time. Alex learned that by trying to control everything in their life, they were only holding themselves back. In the end, Alex learned that embracing uncertainty was the key to a fulfilling life. By accepting that uncertainty was a part of life, they were able to experience new adventures and meet new people. They found that the uncertainty that they once feared was actually a place of opportunity, possibility, and growth. Alex decided to make friends with uncertainty and never looked back. Chapter 5. Lily wanted to audition for the school play. She had always loved acting, but the idea of standing in front of a crowd and performing made her feel anxious and scared. Whenever she thought about it, negative thoughts crept into her mind. I'm not good enough, I'll mess up, people will laugh at me. Lily tried to change her thinking by reminding herself of all the positive qualities she had. She told herself that she was talented, smart, and creative. However, no matter how many positive affirmations she repeated, the negative thoughts persisted. One day, Lily's drama teacher gave her some advice. Thoughts don't define you, actions do, she said. It's normal to have negative thoughts, but you can't let them stop you from doing what you love. Ignore your thoughts and act anyway. Lily wasn't sure if she could do it, but she decided to take her teacher's advice and audition for the play. As she stood on stage, she felt her heart pounding in her chest. Negative thoughts swirled around in her mind, but she pushed them aside and began to perform. To her surprise, Lily found that as she acted out her role, the negative thoughts began to fade away. She became so absorbed in her performance that she forgot about her fears and doubts. When she finished, she felt a sense of accomplishment and pride. From that day on, Lily realized that her thoughts didn't have to control her actions. She learned that it was okay to feel scared and uncertain, but that she could still choose to act bravely and confidently. And as she continued to act, she found that her confidence grew, and the negative thoughts became less and less powerful. So, if you ever find yourself struggling with negative thoughts, remember Lily's story. Remember that you are not your thoughts, you are what you do. Don't let fear and doubt stop you from pursuing your dreams. Instead, take a deep breath, ignore your thoughts, and act anyway. Who knows, you might just surprise yourself with what you can accomplish. Finally, the insights and knowledge I gained from reading Unfuck Yourself were phenomenal. I highly recommend it. Thank you for taking the time to watch, and if you found value in this video, be sure to hit that like button and subscribe to my channel for more great content. Trust me, you won't regret it.